Alright, looks like we up. Like I forgot to turn on my mouse without borders again. Hang on. Let's get that turned on so that my laptop doesn't turn itself off. So that I can keep seeing my chat. Oh, what a blighted. I am alive. I'm living. Does this work? Yeah, it's worked. Alright, fantastical. Got done with D&D session not long ago. Nice. Good deal. Good deal. What up, Gravy? Let's see. What are we gonna do today? I am having a really hard time staying motivated with this game. The reason I'm having a hard time staying motivated with this game is the end game loop of this game is really boring. And so while there are lots of things that I can be doing right now, right, I could keep building my base. I could finish up quest lines and stuff like that. The end game loop is the thing that I want to do the most and I want to spend the most time on. You know, I want to be out PvPing, gathering spice, stuff like that. But I don't, you know, I want to do the rest of this stuff. I want to do this building stuff as like a side. You know, like I do some PvP stuff, I go out there, I do those things, and then I could come back here and do, you know, a half hour, 45 minutes of some bullshit in the base or some questing or whatever. But because the end game loop is so broken, you know, the questing and stuff just starts to turn into my whole day. The grind is just the whole day. And that's not really fun for me. It's also not really fun for y'all, so I plan to separate from the group next session, do some underground work while they talk to a banshee and do generic side quests. I mean, it's not that I don't want to play, it's that I wish there was some other stuff involved. Blighted, though, you should never split the party, dude. That's like D&D rule number 1. Never split the party. Yeah, it might be time to think of a new game, 0, but there aren't really any other games out that I want to play right now. They all suffer from pretty similar issues. Then why are you in... If friends are dead weight, why are you in an adventuring party in the first place? I don't understand. Crash. Reasons. Okay. I don't know what happened there. I was kind of lagging and I tried to hit the button and... Oh, the stream died for a second? That's cool. That's real cool. Everything seems fine now. Wow, this testing station is framey as fuck. That guy's name is Achilles. He died because I shot him in the ankle. Yeah, no, I'm lagging like crazy right now. Blighted. Lagging like crazy. Whenever you get around these quest points of interest, any point of interest that has a quest involved with it is just framey as shit. And I don't know why. Like, what is going on with their quest system? It's causing so many problems. Well, yeah, but that's kind of my point, though, is if D&D is about adventuring with a party, and so you're joining a party, why would you play a character whose backstory is specifically anti-party? You know what I mean? I mean, if you found a cool way to make it work, then that's great. As long as there's something, you were thinking about it, and you didn't just say, I'm going to play with this party, but really deep down, I don't want to be around them. I mean, except you're the one who made the character. You totally have a say. You might not have a say in-game, but you certainly had a say out of game. I mean, your character was created by you. Somebody didn't tell you you had to play a character that had an aversion to grouping, right? Right. So, I mean, as long as you have some sort of story element, story arc, story something that you're using to explain why you're specifically in a party, and you're not playing a character who hates parties inside of a party, then that's fine. But it is something you have to take into account, right? You can't. Probably. I'm trying to find a stupid book right now. I don't know what's up with this room. Like a secret room, but then there was nothing in it. Makes me sad. I've sort of stopped lagging since I've been down here. And it doesn't look like my stream is lagging too much. I'm getting a little framiness, but I was lagging way worse when we were up on the surface. So if you're still seeing a ton of framiness and stuff, that might not be the stream anymore. But yeah, it's pretty bad. It's all of these POIs where you have quests. The quest POIs always suck. And I don't know why. Maybe you should threaten his family so that he does a better job selling things for you. Then maybe you should help him out by threatening other people's families so that they buy stuff from them. Because let's face it, the solution is always threaten people's families. Whoops. I died. Womp womp. You can sneakily threaten people. Came across 5 people today at a medium spice blow. I was gonna run, but they were like, nah, we cool, just come and farm what you need. Interesting. I'm actually fairly surprised by that. But 5 people at a medium spice blow, that's not nearly enough spice for 5 people. Get wrecked, nerd. I mean, it is your problem. He's your ally. He can't afford good gear. How is he going to help you do the things? Alright, let me get the hell out of here. Return to Jacosta. Is the new landsraad on? You mean like, now we got 42 more minutes? But yeah, in 42 more minutes, we get new landsraad tasks. Yeah, the landsraad tasks are really cool. You know, they get finished too quickly, and this system isn't complete because the only way to bribe any of the representatives is to give them spice melange, and that's not supposed to be the thing. You're supposed to be able to either give them spice melange or do a contract for them, or at least sometimes be able to do a contract for them. And that's not been incorporated into the game yet. The game is very minimum viable product right now. Like, very minimum viable product. especially the end game loop. The PvE section, the storyline, going through the first part of the game, the first 150 to 200 hours, is extremely good. But the end game loop, the endless part of the game, is really shit. Honestly, I don't have anything else that I'm really interested in playing right now, Blighted. Because I want a game like this, right? This is the type of game I want to be playing. So something like this, something like Once Human, an MMORPG, something like Ashes of Creation or Albion Online, or, there's lots of games that almost hit the mark for me, but their end game loops are really, really tone deaf to what the average player needs and is looking for. And so you end up with a lot of games that are really, really focused towards what a minority of extremely extroverted, extremely group-oriented players are wanting to do. Jacost is not here, okay. But you're not really...
Don't mind me, I'll just be moving along.
I mean, that's not what I'm looking for in a game, though, right? I want to play an online game. I want to have other people around. I like MMOs. I mean, if I wanted something to do, I could literally 100% any game, but it's got to be the right game, right?
With me? The Lady in Black? Sorry, I'm not sure. I espied her. She did not. She refused each. Yes, at least they're happy. I don't know. You might still be able to find them at Hanovar's.
I mean, it's not that I don't like any of those. It's that I like all of those games a lot up to a certain point. And so I become disappointed with the end game loop because I want to keep playing the game, but there are things that are fundamentally wrong with them that just make them almost unplayable.
Help you with something? Buy me a spot. Your choice. Back again. Time for a drink. Buy me a spot sale and you can ask anything. Your choice.
Welcome back.
Back again. Time for a drink. Buy me a cold and frosty. Some. You're willing. Yeah, we're looking for a witch. She wasn't around when we came. Nah, I don't mind if you ask. But it's gonna... Loyalty's gotten up, then the job's dry up. Ah, no worries.
Go to the ambush location in the Odom. I know that I wouldn't really want to be a Harkonnen because I don't like that music. It was not to my liking. There might be some situations where I would have enjoyed it. If I'd had a couple of drinks and maybe was in a party mood, I could see that music having some merit, but just as a regular, like, this is what I listen to thing, probably not. Totem time. Yeah, so with the July 7th update, we got the increase to the number of medium spice blows that are available. So, for sure, there should be... Hey. Okay. Okay. So for sure there should be more spice flows available all the time, which I think is great. Oh yeah, that's right. I forgot. It's not that I refuse gravy. It's that I'm an idiot. I would love to use the shield, but I'm too stupid. The fact that I used one of my abilities there is honestly kind of flabbergasting to me. I am flabbergasted. My ghast is flabbered. Write that down on the screen along with the smiley face. So I don't actually see what's drawn on the screen.
Received. These syndicate hardmen have harassed me across many systems. It is very good
I think that one's
you
too
have
big.
eradicated them at last. You have my gratitude.
This only shows up for you all. Hermit. Smiley hermit.
No, I am regrettably someone took very good.
Hand over the book to Jacosta. Hold me now. I'm 6 feet from the edge and I'm thinking maybe 6 feet ain't so far down. One of these days, maybe I'll get good enough to use all the buttons I'm supposed to use. You tried plotting under spice influence with the planetologist skills? No, I actually haven't. Yeah, I haven't done most of the planetologist line yet. I only did the first quest. Another one of the lines I have to do. I got to do the Bene Gesserit, which I'm doing. I have to do the Swordmaster, and I have to do the Planetologist. And I have to do the rest of the main story quest line and all that stuff. Which is good. I mean, it's lots of content. It's a ton of stuff that I'm going to get through. But I don't know if it's going to last long enough. Yeah. Yeah, I did know that. Got stuff for better gathering and stuff with the vehicles too. which I really need to get so that I can gather better with my Jeep. Hello, Jacosta.
You're back.
You have
At
returned.
last. I wasn't sure that you would come. Yes, that doesn't really concern you.
So
and
keep
the less
pressing
you
Z
know,
accidentally
the
instead of
better.
X. So I ended up piloting under spice influence. Nice.
Your attempt at then you have none. Without getting it, only the spacing. Yeah. For a long time, 100 prolonged. I fell in with. Oh, I don't know. Yes, or yes, you have. Thus far, you have with your with a focused mark, working together, your heightened sense. Very good. Your third. But for now, take your leave.
I unlock a Benny Jez. Nope. Oh no, I did. I unlocked this one. Alright, what's this quest about here? What are we gonna be doing? Investigate the Syndicate. Find the Syndicate flight logs. Find the Syndicate underlords. Find the Syndicate leader. Return to Jacosta. Okay, we only have 3 skill points, so hopefully... I don't have to... hope you have fun with that, Blighted. I've never actually played any of the Left 4 Dead games. Everything you say to me. Got an Albatross Mark V wing module. I got 3 of them. I don't know if it's better than Mark 6. Why? Oh, so the Albatross wing modules, I just read the other day, they actually increase your copter mode flight speed. They don't increase your glide mode flight speed. So your glide mode flight speed will be the same as with your regular Mark V wings, and then your thopter mode flight speed will be faster. So I would say probably not better, because, you know, you want to be able to glide quick. Yeah, I mean, especially with the Scout, there's not a ton of reason to be thoptering. When you can just glide to the left. 1 hop this time. 2 hops this time. The scout thopter with the fucking thruster feels so good. Now. I don't think I'm gaining any more altitude. Whoops. Investigate the syndicate. I hope investigate means murder everyone. Because that's definitely the plan. Oh my gosh, it's so framey. Boop. I can't see what I'm doing, 'cause it's so freaking laggy. Just lower the graphics. I would rather... I would rather have worse graphics and better gameplay fluidity. Like all day. Does it now want me to go somewhere else? No, it wants me to go somewhere else. All right. Or take out the base building. Like, I know base building is super cool and everybody loves it. I love it too. But honestly, base building ruins these games. It's very, very difficult to have structures in a world that aren't baked. You know what I mean? And so you just end up with this crazy amount of lag because the server is working super duper overtime. And I love it. I love being able to build my own little base and shit. But let's maybe... because it basically ruins everything else about the game. Did you? Did you see me? Don't you shoot your flames at me. You little twerp. I don't even have to fight you, dude. Am I going... Why is this region blocked out again?
A large sandstorm is approaching.
I hate you, game. Why are you ruining my life? So buggy. I don't think they should have released this game yet. I hate everything about you. Why do I love you? That's how I feel about this game. That's exactly how I feel about this game. Can I please? Thank you. Let's actually go ahead and fix this bad boy. Yeah, you mean the one from yesterday at like 2 o'clock in the morning? Yeah. I read that. I even put out a little video on it. where I read and talked about it. I think it's a great update. I'm glad to see that they're trying so hard to reimburse people who, lost a shiznit ton of their progress due to the PvP PvE switch. And the only thing that's really going to keep me playing this game is the fact that they're at least trying. But it scares me that they're communicating so well on so many topics and that we still haven't gotten any communication at all on the state of the faction and the landsraad system. So, it's sort of a double-edged sword, I guess. Like, I'm super happy that they're communicating about cheating, that they're communicating about exploiting, that they're communicating about, their support systems and stuff like that and trying to fix those. All of that stuff is great. The fact that they're going back to tickets that they've already closed and trying to use some of the new tools they've created to help them maybe make those people whole again is fantastic. However, I am also really, really taken aback by the fact that if they're giving all of that information, if they're putting out all of those details, if they're, addressing these things that they're hard at work on, then does the silence mean that we're not getting any changes to the landsraad? Does the silence mean that we're not getting any changes to the faction system? Have we decided that those systems are in the state that we want them to be in? And so we're just not going to be making any more changes to that stuff. Because if that's the case, then I don't want to play this game anymore. Because I think those systems are in an absolutely horrendous state. And I am playing the game in the hope I see you, buddy boy. I'm gonna shoot you. Where you go? Oh, they finded me. Whoa. What just happened to me? Where's this duder at? I know there's a duder in here. Oh, he got killed. Hello, darkness, my old friend. I do believe that's the flight logs. Plunk. Put my gear back on here. Once Human have made lots of changes now. There are classes and things now, new scenarios too, I guess. Yeah, so they've been doing a pretty decent job over there with Once Human. But, again, it's a core gameplay loop thing that I have a problem with there. I think that if you're a fairly casual player, if you're only playing 10 hours or so a month, or 10 hours or so a week, Once Human is probably the best available survival game on the market right now for you. Especially if you like guns and things like that, right? The base building and stuff is pretty easy to get through. The amount of resources and stuff that you get is very conducive to playing more casually. Just generally, the game is designed for a casual audience, which I think is fantastic. But, and so if I was a content creator where specifically I made YouTube videos and didn't necessarily stream, I think it would be a great option for a content creator who did something like that. But because I want to stream, there's just no way to generate, you know, a bajillion hours of streaming out of playing that game. But yeah, I mean, I think it's great. I very much want to lose myself in a single game, though. That's always kind of been my MO with gaming. Is, you know, I've played a lot of MMORPGs in my time, but I've never played two of them at the same time. It's always been, you know, like, you know, right now I'm a Guild Wars player, or right now I'm a Final Fantasy 14 player, or, you know, whatever it is, and I just spend all of my time in those games. Oh, damn it. Can I please do anything? That'd be fucking awesome. Nope, just gotta stand there, huh? Jesus fucking Christ, dude. This game is so good and so bad at the same time. And it's so frustrating. So is the syndicate leader just straight up from here? I don't see a path really that goes up. Definitely up. Does that mean go outside and go up? I think it does. Okay, well, I wanted to come in from the top. I guess that's not a thing. No side entrances, no windows I can go in through. Oh, and then I just magically found the syndicate leader here. Weird. Check the body for intel. Hey, look at that. I got some intel. Return to Jocasta. Slide to the left. How we doing? We doing fantastic. We are sailing through these missions. I'm sailing away. So I was chit-chatting with ChatGPT last night. And I was trying to get an idea of, well, not an idea of, I was trying to expand on the idea that I've always talked about. No, I wasn't streaming. I was just chit-chatting. I like to... Oh, no, it wasn't about streaming stuff. It was about the idea that I was having for a crafting system that ran on the structure of a roguelite, and how a more interesting gathering system could be designed to be incorporated with that. And so the crafting system that has that roguelite structure has was sort of developed out of the idea of a more small incremental crafting system like, say, Path of Exile or Last Epoch
No
have.
one said the path. Appreciate that. They
Um,
seek a. They
but there
seek
was
a
another
Bene
aspect to
Gesserit to be
ARPGs that I hadn't
apprehended and
considered
returned to the
before,
Sisterhood's care. I do not
and
know.
that is the loot drop system of ARPGs also suits really well into this because it could also be your gatherables system. So in an ARPG, you have prefixes, you have suffixes, and when an item drops, right, it gets a base item type, so it's, a sword of some type or an armor of some type or something like that. And then it rolls with up to, say 4 attributes or 4 bonuses on it, 2 prefixes, 2 suffixes. And then it's named based on the highest tier suffix and prefix. So you might get a longsword, but it could be like the reaping longsword of immortality. Right? And maybe that is like a bonus to damage and some life leech or something like that. And so I started to think about that, and I started to think about how that might get incorporated into a gathering system instead. And I realized that you could do very much the same thing, where you could set up prefixes and suffixes for gatherables that you could set up prefixes and suffixes for gatherables that would change the way the layout for the crafting session happened, right? So in Slay the Spire, you get all of those choices and encounters and stuff like that. So the gatherables that you get when you put them into the craft could change the way that spire was laid out and change the specific bonuses that you might be able to get within that spire. And then you could have, just this huge variety of available gatherables that are extremely unique and that might only appear under certain conditions. Like after a lightning storm, or, during the summertime if you have seasons, or just this huge variety of conditions that could make really, really unique gatherables that are just completely procedurally generated. And they could just appear at random places, and maybe one only ever appears like in an entire server because the conditions just never get duplicated. But I thought that was a really interesting, and I would have never thought of that on my own, right? Because I was giving ChatGPT like this idea of what I was trying to get at, and kind of out of left field, it hit me with these prefixes and suffix model, and I was like, oh shit, that's literally brilliant. I wish that I was a good game developer, because I would make this game, but I'm not, so I can't. Why? I don't think I picked up the next quest. I think I was too busy talking. Sure it is. It would also take a lot of time, but I did pick up the next quest. Good. Alright, practice using the voice to compel. Recite the litany against fear. Find someone connected to the mysterious message. Confront Lady Margot. Cool. So we need to unlock. That. Through a combined focus of your nerves and muscles, you're able to resist being staggered by reducing all incoming poise damage. You've developed your internal systems to the extent that any poison you take can quickly be catalyzed, removed from your system. Furthermore, attempts to poison you will not succeed, provided that you have enough stamina to fuel the process. Cool. I need more skill points. Cool. Cool, cool. Cool, cool, cool. I don't know who Toby Fox is. So are you saying he wasn't a good game developer? Isn't Undertale like one of the most popular indie games ever? Because you said that being a good game dev isn't enough. I don't understand this conversation at all. You said being good at something isn't enough. And then you said that the person was a good writer. And then we're confused why I thought you were saying that person wasn't a good game dev? Being good isn't enough, but being not good is enough? I mean, you literally just said he had no idea what he was doing and his code sucks. If that's not bad game developer, I don't know what is. Uh, Uh-huh. I think that dude was trying to come back to life. No. Didn't make it. Sad day. Parkour, parkour. I played a little Don't Starve together with my little brother once. I mean, again, I'm into all of those games. I love survival games. I love crafting games. I'm tired of playing the same game. I mean, they're basically all reskins of the same game. Right? Dune and Ark and Yeah, that's my point though, is that they're all the same. And they're all the minimum viable product. This is a minimum viable product. Right? When I think about a crafting system, right, but they're the same. The crafting systems are the same. The gathering systems are the same. The high-level mechanical systems of these games are all the same. I've seen Subnautica played. I don't have to play a game to know its high-level mechanical systems. The artisan loop of all of these games is completely born on the back of the gathering loop. There is no gameplay related to crafting. Why would only liking a specific genre of games make me more strict about what I play than what a vegan is about what they eat? You're just like making arbitrary connections. Right, but where's the analogy there? Not analogous at all. I don't have any aluminum. Should probably go get some. Probably not going to, though. What I don't like is that the end game loop of this game is gathering and crafting. But that gathering and crafting is expressed in the exact same way it was expressed in the first gathering crafting survival game, which was made like 20 years ago, which was Minecraft. Or even earlier than that, when we had crafting in MMOs like Dark Age of Camelot, it hasn't developed from that at all, right? There's no gameplay element. Gathering is always walk up to node, press button, gain resource, and crafting is always walk up to bench, open static menu, press button, get item. Those aren't interesting gameplay elements because there's no gameplay involved in those things. And so, yes, the lack of evolution to core elements of the gameplay of my favorite genre is extraordinarily depressing to me. And every time I get hopeful, like, hey, this game's going to be a little different maybe, or hey, it seems like their endgame loop with the landsraad is going to be, kind of unique and maybe fun. And every single time, it's just minimum viable product. This is a minimum viable product, right? The balancing is off. There's no motivation to work within your faction. So even though this is a faction system, it's not actually a faction system. It's a guild versus guild system with extra steps. The speed at which you can claim these tiles is way, way off balance. Right? This is a first iteration of a system that's gone through multiple closed betas. I love the gameplay loop, but the gameplay loop hasn't adapted or evolved or changed in any way. Yeah, it has its audience. And what happens? that audience sees a new game from their genre come out, get really excited, buy the game, and then stop playing it. Because the gameplay loop isn't interesting enough to hold their interest long term. And it can be, right? These games could be significantly more interesting. I know what I could do. I can make videos about it and talk about it on my live streams. I'm going to go look those games up right now. How do you craft in Subnautica? Because I bet you it's a menu. What do you mean, what happened? Yeah, I'm looking up Subnautica to find its crafting system, which is a menu where you press a button. How is that a focus on crafting? That's a focus on gathering. But I want a focus on crafting. I want interesting crafting. I want interesting gathering. What I want is anybody to do anything new. What's up, Stefan? I recommend Dune in its current form if you are willing to pay $50 for about 200 hours of enjoyment. The beginning of this game, the PvE in the Haga Basin, and your first experience with the world and building your base and going through the storyline and all that stuff is really compelling and really interesting. I don't think the game has enough mechanical complexity to sustain a person long term beyond a couple of 100 hours. And the end game loop is completely broken right now. The faction system and the landsraad system might as well not exist. So, yeah, I mean, I guess you just have to ask yourself how much 200 hours of entertainment is worth to you. And if 200 hours of entertainment is worth $50 to you, then I think it's totally worth it. And if it's not, and you want a live service game that you're going to be able to play for a really long time, then in its current iteration, that's absolutely not true. This game is not a game that you can continue to play for an extended period of time because the end game loop is broken and there's just nothing that's going to motivate you to keep going. And the systems themselves aren't compelling enough to keep you going, right? Like, I need to go gather a bunch of resources right now, but the gathering mechanic isn't interesting to me. How do people play Minecraft for so long, I wonder? They play Minecraft for a really long time because they really, really want to build things. And because Minecraft's redstone system is probably one of the most compelling systems that's ever been made in one of these games. The redstone system is insanely interesting and has an almost unlimited skill cap. Unfortunately, it also has an incredible barrier to entry because if you don't know very much about circuits, there's a very limited amount of stuff you can do with it. Must not be the only one that sees it as broken in the respects you said. Do the devs take note? Absolutely. Absolutely, Stefan. The problem is, so we've been getting tons of really good information from the devs. They've been telling us, about how they're taking care of cheating and exploiting and, how they're going to go through and try and replace some of the vehicles from some of the mistakes that have been made, keeping us updated on their known issues, keeping us updated, on all of that stuff. Yes, voting power is based on guild-wide contribution. That's correct, Gravy.
Sector weather alert.
So they've been doing a really good job of stuff like that. But the issue that I run into is that they haven't given us any feedback on those other broken systems. So as active as they are in giving feedback, the fact that they've been silent on some of the really broken endgame stuff kind of scares me a little bit. Because it means that either they aren't thinking about it or aren't going to change it or don't know what they want to do well enough to give us information yet, which frightens me because it's a really big problem. And it's a core part of their game, right? The game was sold based on the faction system and the landsraad system, and that was a huge draw for a lot of players. And it's totally broken, and it's the whole end game loop, right? After your first 200 hours, you will be interacting with the landsraad, and that'll just be kind of the game for you at that point. So I'm concerned. I have my concerns. I don't outright refuse to play a single player Blighted, but I'm not gonna play a single player game that's the same as the multiplayer games that I'm struggling to stay interested in. The reason I like multiplayer games is because they tend to be games as a service, right? And so you have other people to interact with, and player interaction creates emergent gameplay that you just can't get from a single player game because single player games don't have other players who do random stuff that can't be coded into the game or who act in random ways that can't be coded into an NPC. And so the games just have more longevity, in my opinion, because they have other players to interact with.
Sector weather alert. A large sandstorm is approaching.
What game is that? Not entirely sure how a game has NPCs that can do stuff that wasn't coded, but sure. Let's go look up Rain World. Let's see this incredible game with living NPCs. Yeah, Stefan, I mean, like I said, it's a really, really fun game when you first get started because you're not going to see the cracks because it's still new, right? It's still a new environment. The sandworms are cool. It's in the Dune universe, and that's really cool. And the game feels pretty good to be in, right? It's fun to move your character around. You get your first suspensor belt, and you get the Shigawire Claw skill, and you start kind of floating around, and traversal feels really good. You can climb up on top of all of this stuff. Its base is really good, right? But then you realize that its base is just kind of what comes out of Unreal Engine. I don't know if you've ever tried to program a game in Unreal Engine before, but it's all just kind of there already. And when you start looking at the systems and mechanics that they've incorporated, then things start to fall apart a little bit. Single player games have better immersion. That is a wildly sweeping statement that, if you take it outside of edge cases, falls apart very quickly. Not much by the way of authenticity. I don't know what you mean by that. Which is why if you take it outside of edge cases, that statement falls apart. Because it does matter what games you're talking about. If a generalization depends on what game you're talking about, then the generalization is false. If it's simply using the Unreal system, the standard with a few... Well, I mean, that's what all games are, though, right? You get an engine. The engine already has, you know, things like locomotion and your environment builder, and all of that stuff is part of the Unreal Engine. And so they've done a good job of making a cool environment. And they've done a good job with, you know, their animations, right? My run animation is nice here. The animations are nice. But a lot of that stuff can just be pulled right out of Unreal, right? A lot of the work for a lot of that coding is done as part of Unreal. Yeah, well, so it's not... Those things aren't the things that need to be pushed or innovated on, Stefan, right? Like, there's no reason to innovate on aiming down sight, right? Like, that's just a part of the Unreal Engine. You can basically just do this bog standard right out of the package with Unreal. But what are you innovating here, right? There's no innovating that. The problem is these things are already so included. So the best parts of the game are the parts of the game that have been solved equations for a really long time, right? Character locomotion is a solved equation. Aiming down the sight is a solved equation. Firing a weapon and having either hit scan or bullet physics is a solved equation. And you can copy paste these from an almost infinite number of games to get an extremely good mechanic for those things, right? There's no discovery there. There's no effort there. There's no learning. There's no trial and error. These things just happen and exist already in the game. And so I think they're good. And I'm happy that they're in the game. But these are not things that I would count as victories for the team that made Dune, right? The team that made Dune didn't get a victory out of making a good aim down sight. So the oversights that I'm identifying are things like their building system hasn't been iterated on, right? There's lots to iterate on when it comes to building in survival games, right? But we've still got an extremely blocky, extremely limited style of building. And sure, we've got quite a few different skins and stuff that we can have for our structures, but that's about the extent of their iteration on the building system. You still get block foundations, you still get square walls, you still get very limited options in, you know, pitches and stuff like that for roofs, and it's all based on a very, very basic grid system. So there's no iteration here. There's no iteration really on the gathering loop, other than the fact that with your handheld cut array, you do get a small little mini game where, oops, I forgot to fix my suspensor belt. I'm going to die. Whoops. So you get a small little mini game when you're gathering where, you know, I scan with my cut array and then I trace the line. And that's a cool iteration on gathering. But then as soon as you use your vehicle to gather, that iteration on gathering goes away. And then it's just shoot laser at rock. So why did we iterate on that? Why did we do that and then take that away? So this little, that's kind of cool, right? I salvage metal that way. Why doesn't that exist when I'm using my vehicle? Crafting is just a menu, right? You gather a shit ton of resources, and then you go to a bench, and then you just click a menu, and that's it. And so that's not interesting, right? That's the same as every crafting system that's ever existed in any video game ever. I mean, I think that's exactly right. Ennui sets in quickly because you start to see the potential of the game and you start to see the potential of the mechanics. And then you realize that this is the end product, right? They're not going to iterate on the gathering system. I'm not going to get anything more interesting than tracing that line. That's the extent of that gameplay loop. They're not going to iterate on the crafting system to give crafting some sort of gameplay element. It's always going to be a menu. I'm always going to just be sitting here like, oh, guess I'm making another one of these. And then that's just going to be that. So none of these things are getting changed. This is the game. And it feels like a minimum viable product. You know, the landsraad system is cool, right? The idea of completing these objectives so that these houses will give you a vote, and then you go in here and you vote on this decree. And that's super dope. But these tiles get taken over too quickly. So the balancing is really, really off, which is really confusing to me because they've had closed betas where people have interacted with the landsraad system. So I don't know how the balancing is still so bad. And then there's no mechanical anything that motivates a player to work within their faction. So there's friendly fire within factions here. So factions can kill each other, right? Like I'm not in a faction, but if I was in Atreides, I could just go kill all the other Atreides players. And so the best path for any player to take is for everyone on the server to just join the same house, right? Everybody should just join Atreides. Because if everybody joins Atreides, then everybody gets the bonus from the decree every week, because Atreides will win every week. And then we just treat the game as a guild versus guild, and then we just all go out in the deep desert, and if you're not in my guild, I kill you. And so it's Albion Online. And so this whole system starts to just have no meaning. Because you don't have to interact with it, because you're not fighting another faction to try and get the landsraad bonus. Because the factions are totally lopsided, because there's no reason to PvP outside of your faction. So this whole endgame loop, right? This is the driving, motivating factor in the entire endgame, and it is completely uninteractable. It has no, if this loop wasn't here, the gameplay wouldn't change at all. Like even a tiny little bit. If you had no factions and no landsraad, I would play this game in exactly the same way I'm playing it right now. Because I haven't interacted with this landsraad at all. Because it's so broken. So it's a minimum viable product. It's there solely for the purpose of being able to see we have this cool end game PvP system. But it doesn't do anything. And so the fact that there's been no talk at all about changes that might be coming to this system to motivate players to interact with the system in certain ways is horrifying. because this is the end game. And admittedly, I got here way faster than most people would, right? I've played almost 400 hours of this game in 4 weeks. So it's not that the base gameplay isn't any fun. It's that eventually you're just kind of vamping, right? Waiting for something to change so that you can move on to the next verse in the song, right? And so I've just been vamping for like 200 hours. And it finally just kind of starts to grate on your nerves. Sure. Yeah, I mean, this is the exact same problem that everybody has with the endgame loop. 100%. And it's not like it's difficult to see, right? I don't assume that I recognize things about this game that the devs don't recognize. My input isn't going to be super valuable to them, right? They have analytics and data on, the gameplay within the game and what players are doing and how things are working that give them an infinitely better picture of the end game loop than what I have. So my feedback, my input doesn't have any value. And if my input does have value, that's a problem. Because how can you have all of this data, right? How can you have all of this skill and training and hours and hours, years of experience building games and having live service games, and then some fat fuck in a chair in his bedroom has more insight than you do? Like, that's awful. If my input is helping in any way, this game is doomed. Because I'm just some dude in his bedroom who has never made a video game in his entire life. I don't know shit. So my input better not help, or we have a much bigger problem than we thought. But yeah, I mean, it makes me concerned. It makes me feel like the game is, it makes me feel like this is the game. But the players have never made the game. Because players are dumb. I mean, that would be like getting a person who's never played tennis to referee a tennis match. Right? They mostly have an idea of what the rules are. Right? I've watched quite a bit of tennis. I mostly understand the rules of tennis. But if you ask me to referee a tennis match, that would go horribly. Because I don't know what I'm talking about. If you gave me some training, then I could referee a tennis match. But then I'm a referee. So the same thing is true here, right? I'm just a consumer. I'm just a player. I've never made a video game. And so I have a general idea of what it takes to make a video game. And I have a general idea of how mechanics and stuff should interact. But for the most part, I could never make a video game. And so I wouldn't say lots of consumers are also modders blighted. And I also wouldn't consider any person who's ever made a mod a game dev. Because there are some mods that are extraordinarily simple and don't necessarily give the person the insight that would be required to fully make a game. But I would say that the number of modders that could be legitimately considered developer tier is less than 0.5% of the gaming player base. I would say it's probably even less than that. It's probably less than 0.1% of the gaming player base. But they haven't. The Mark 6 version of the Albatross wings. Yeah, I actually have those, Gravy. What I mean when you're using your analogy is the spectators desire a standard. Well, so absolutely. You do have to adjust the rules. And this has actually been a really big problem in football. Is there have been a lot of rules made in football over the past couple of decades that were specifically designed to protect football players from the brutal punishment that old school football put on the body, right? Because as players have gotten bigger and stronger and focused more on the physicality of football, because that's how sports progress, right? In order to be faster than the person who ran the world record before you, you have to be more muscular. You have to have more control over your body. You have to be more physically capable. And so over decades, football players went from, pretty average, well, I wouldn't say average, but what we would maybe consider average now in our very warped understanding of human physicality. They went from that more average with better technique to now just these monstrous individuals who, spend 8 hours a day in the gym and who are on special diets and stuff like that to promote massive, massive amounts of muscle growth and stuff like that. And so in order to protect players from the absolute brutal punishment of getting just run over by people of that physical tier, they've had to put a lot of rules in place to prevent certain types of tackles and certain types of hitting, and just try to limit how punishing that sport is. And from a spectator perspective, that's awful, right? Because a lot of what makes football fun, or at least what did when I was growing up back in the early 90s, was watching somebody just absolutely get slaughtered on the football field. But that's not safe for the players, right? That's not good for the game. It's not good for the longevity of the game. So if you took the observer's perspective and took the spectator's view, then you would have a worse game. And I mean, when they started making rules about stuff like that, there was a lot of pushback from spectators. There was a lot of pushback from fans about, you're ruining the integrity of the game, and, football isn't football without hard hits, and I mean, just tons and tons of stuff like that. So, what do you mean lots of talk, Blighted? Do you not like listening to me talk? Should I shut the fuck up and just play the game? What are we trying to get at here? I think that's probably a good plan, Stefan. But honestly, I don't know that I have it in me to keep playing today. I might just have to think of something else to do tomorrow. Maybe not completely abandon Dune, but maybe take a little break because it's really starting to frustrate me, and that's not good. But we'll see. But I think we're going to call it today. It was only like a 2-hour stream today. That's way less than I would normally like to put in. But I just can't. Yeah. So thanks everybody for coming by, saying what's up, having a good conversation. But I think we're going to call it for the day. And I will be back at about the same time tomorrow. Or either I will figure out a way to make this game interesting or I'll figure out something else. So yeah, hope everybody has a good night, and I will see you all on the next one.